Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanTrucks.com, and today we're taking a closer look at installing and dyno testing the Whipple Stage 1 Performance Kit available for the 2018 and newer 3.5 liter Raptor. You should be checking this out for your own Raptor if you're looking for an inclusive kit that offers some of the essentials when it comes to performance adders. The Whipple Stage 1 kit offers their mega intercooler, their upgraded cold air intake and drop-in style filter, as well as the Tomahawk flash cal device, and together they are going to add some really impressive dyno numbers, and we're going to take a look at that in just a second. Know that we strapped down the 2019 Raptor behind me to the dyno to establish our baseline numbers. We have 93 octane in the tank, 35-inch tires. We're going to compare that to our after results. So what do you say before we jump into the details of the kit? Let's take a look at our graph. All right, so we got our 2019 Raptor strapped down to the dyno. We established a baseline run, 93 octane in the tank, completely bone stock otherwise, stock wheels and tires, which is worth noting. We ran it in 5th gear. Now we know 7th is the 1-to-1 gear ratio, but you do run into the speed limiter, so we dropped it down to 5th to get an accurate reading without hitting the limiter. We ran it, established a baseline, walked away with 338 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque at the rear wheels. We then installed our Whipple intercooler, our cold air intake, flashed the Whipple tune using the Tomahawk device, regapped the spark plugs to 0.025 inches, and again, we'll talk about all this in the video. Then we uploaded our tune and ran it again, walked away with 405 horsepower, 432 pound-feet of torque at the rear wheels. That's good for peak gains of 67 horsepower and 63 pound-feet of torque at the rear, but it gets even more impressive under the curve. Those numbers alone are really good, but looking at the curve, we're seeing gains of as much as 80 horsepower and 88 pound-feet of torque at the rear. Now we know these EcoBoosts tune well, but with this Whipple Stage 1 kit, we're seeing really impressive performance. And this is really consistent performance as well. We ran this truck a couple of times, both stock and with all of our Whipple kit installed, and it stayed consistent every time, reducing heat soak. Really awesome performance that we're definitely gonna feel out on the road. What do you say we head back into the studio? Let's talk about every component of the kit and then jump into the install. Now guys, before I break down each individual component, know that I'm going to give you some of those finer details for each one of their components, comparing them to their stock counterparts when we get them uninstalled from our Raptor behind me. The first thing I want to focus on here is our cold air intake. Now the cold air intake you see here on my right is going to be a huge upgrade over the factory airbox. Not only are the materials going to be far superior than the factory option, they're also going to be a lot larger to allow for more airflow. They're going to be less restrictive to make sure that the speed of the airflow is not obstructed, and the filter itself, being the key player of that small component here, is going to be a giant upgrade. This filter here, while it is still a drop-in style, as you can see, this is known to increase up to 132% more airflow than your factory unit. That number alone, in my opinion, is super impressive. That's because of the wide pleated velocity stack style filter that we have going on here. That's going to allow for more of that airflow to come through with less restriction, increasing its volume. In addition to that airflow, it's also going to do a much better job filtering out all of the unwanted particles that you don't want making their way into your system. All of that is held into that large drop-in style filter that's washable and reusable. So when it comes time for routine maintenance, pop that guy out, give her a wash with some pressurized air, throw it right back in, and you're good to move on. It is as simple as that. It's also enclosed in a 2-piece heat shield that has an opening on the bottom here for some of that airflow coming in through the bottom. And finally, the elbow that you see is much larger than the factory option. And like I said, that leaves the airflow unobstructed, less restriction, with a better airflow capacity. That altogether has a textured black finish with a roto-molded material, so it's sort of like an impact-resistant plastic. And one more thing to note here is that on the bottom of that heat shield is an air duct already molded on. You don't have to transfer over any factory component. It utilizes that stock style option, which is going to help pull in even more cold air from your front end. Next up, I want to talk about your intercooler. Now this guy is far and away going to be more impactful to performance than your cold air intake is, but together they do offer a monstrous combo. Now the intercooler you see here is the Monster intercooler, having a mega cooler bar and plate styling, a massive core, and a fully welded aluminum construction. Now this guy here has a much greater volume and a bigger surface area than your factory intercooler, which makes it far and away better for performance. Now this guy here is going to boast intake temps dropped up to 80, 90 degrees, which results in more consistent power. Now your factory 3.5 Raptor intercooler is known to kind of fall on its face a little bit once it starts to get heat soaked. That is going to be diminished here with your Whipple option because those intake temps stay much cooler. That's even exacerbated in real world applications. 80 to 90 degree temperature drops were seen on the dyno, so it is expected to be even better out on the road. Now, while this is an insanely impactful mod that is definitely recommended for Raptor owners, one thing to note here is if you're looking to run a front-mounted winch, or if you're running a winch mount bumper, this guy is not going to be for you. It does not allow for a front mount winch. So what would be recommended would be to check out a kit that offers a grill relocated intercooler, such as a kit from like AFE or similar brands. But if you're not looking to do that on your truck, this is a highly recommended option. The next thing I want to talk about is your Tomahawk flash cowl device. Now this flash cowl device is meant for stock Raptors. The tune is going to be provided from Whipple. It's key to your specific vehicle to tie in all of the components of the kit and maximize their performance. If your vehicle already has bolt-on mods, power adders to be exact, and a custom tune, the tuner itself is not going to be of use for you guys. This again is meant for stock vehicles. But if you are already modified with a tune, you might want to pick up these components separately and get them custom tuned using whatever device you already have. Now for the guys who are running a stock vehicle, this guy here, you'll plug into your Raptor, grab your stock file with the SD card included in the kit, communicate that to Whipple, and they'll write your tune. With that in mind, you want to do that before you jump into the installation. The tune itself is not preloaded on the tuner. You have to pull your vehicle's info because it is specific to your Raptor. With that said, you do want to make sure you're running a 91 octane or higher fuel. You want to use those higher octane pump gas fuels. This is not going to work with your 87 octane or the lower octanes. There are a couple of other features that you can take advantage of on that device, such as the DTC code reader. The diagnostic trouble code comes up, check engine light. You can read it with the Tomahawk device, clear that as well. You'll also be able to read simple things like vehicle info, VIN number, ECU strategy code, all of the important things that you'll need to know in order to request your tune from Whipple. Again, it's recommended to do that before you jump into the installation because it can take some time to get that from Whipple, about a day or two. Now finally, all of this being tied in together, as you saw from our dyno, is super impactful. Altogether, it comes in right around $2,100, so it does carry a steeper price tag. It is coming from a staple in the forced induction aftermarket world. Whipple has been around for decades, and they have been doing some really reputable, high quality work when it comes to forced induction, and now you have this kit for your 3.5 Raptor. So the price is extremely worthwhile because of the high quality parts and performance you get out of this kit. Now, as far as the install is concerned for the entire kit, expect 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter here. No permanent modifications are required like drilling, cutting, or welding. It is a direct bolt-on kit. It'll take you about 3 to 4 hours from start to finish, depending on your expertise and your experience. It'll take pretty simple hand tools, not just 1 or 2. It'll test the toolbox, but no specialty tools are required. One thing I will note here before we get started is if you're working on the ground in the driveway at home, make sure you have a couple of jack stands to prop it up safely. And I'd recommend using your hydraulic jack when it comes to uninstalling your intercooler to prop that guy up, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. Now, I'm going to take you through every single step of the process, starting with the hardest of the install first, the intercooler. Then we'll do our cooler intake and wrap things up with our tune. Now again, make sure you request your tune ahead of time because it can take a day or two to get to you from Whipple. Now, we're going to move our 19 Raptor onto the lift. What do you say we get started? Now, the tools used in the intercooler section of the install includes an impact gun, a 1/4 inch ratchet, a variety of extensions, both 3/8 and 1/4 inch, short, deep, and swivel 7mm sockets, deep 8mm socket, 10, 11, 11 swivel, 13 and 15mm deep sockets. Also needed would be a variety of flatheads, smaller one, and a normal size. Now guys, we can do the entire intercooler process without needing to take the front bumper off, which is a good thing, but we do need to take off our skid plate on the bottom here. Now there's 2 15mm bolts at the back end, and then we'll remove the 2 13s from each side under the tow hook. So let's start with our 15s. All right, so now under our right tow hook, I'm going to remove these 2 13s. All right, so of course, as we remove the second two over here, the skid plate is gonna come down, so just be ready for that and grab it. All right, with the skid plate out of the way, we have access to the back of our stock intercooler. Now, attached to the back of the stock intercooler is the intercooler fan assembly. In here, there is the fan assembly harness. We want to disconnect the harness and then disconnect this plastic clip holding it in place and kind of tuck it out of the way a little bit. Just be mindful, you don't want to stick your fingers in there. There are fan blades. We would hate to have that kick on for whatever reason. So what we want to do is disconnect this guy first. We're going to pinch at the top and pull straight back. And then I'm gonna use a panel removal tool to kind of pry up on this plastic clip here. Next up, we're gonna disconnect the intercooler support bracket underneath here. This goes straight across. It also connects and supports the intercooler fan assembly, so that should all come down with this. On both sides, there is a single 15mm bolt. We're gonna remove that. So we're gonna disconnect, there's these two little rubber grommets on both sides, here and here. This one's disconnected, but you're basically just gonna push up on that guy, bring this down. Right, so now we can squeeze this fan out of here as well. It's a really tight squeeze, but it is disconnected. Next up, we're gonna put a pole jack underneath of our intercooler here now that we have access to it. That way, when we unbolt it, it's supported and we can lower it down slowly. Now, because my pole jack here is curved, I'm gonna use a block of wood here to flatten things out, give it a little more support. If you're working on the ground, of course, in the driveway, hydraulic jack's a good choice for this as well. It has a flat pad on it, makes life a little easier for you. But if you're in the air like I am, this is a good way to go too. All right, there we go. Nice and supported. Now we can unbolt this guy. All right, so next we're gonna remove our charge pipes here, left-hand and right-hand side. We're on our passenger side right now. You can see this clamp. We're gonna disconnect the bottom one. The top one is gonna be a lot more difficult to see, but it is gonna be the same exact style clamp. It's a 7mm socket can take care of it. A flathead would also do the trick. It's just a little bit tricky to get a flathead up in here. So I'm gonna use a socket with a 7mm. All right, so that one's disconnected. Now we can do the top. All right, now this top one's really difficult to get to. I switched to a 7mm short socket because it's got a little bit of a tighter space that we got on there. I'm using my right hand to just guide the socket on and my left hand to work the ratchet. There we go. All right. Next up, we're gonna disconnect our bypass valve tube. There's this gray plastic collar that we're going to need to twist. And with that, we can disconnect it by pulling straight back on it. Just like that. So next up, we're gonna disconnect our tubing here. And you'll see this metal ring that goes on the outside and then tucks in, and then the outside and tucks in. That's like a hose clamp. It's a different style. So what we're gonna do is take a flathead, put this guy through, and you're basically gonna pull out on this to unclamp it. All right, you can do that there. I'm also gonna do it a little bit back here. Disconnects. Just like that. With this removed, we'll be able to disconnect our hose. Now with that clamp removed, what we'll be able to do is push back on it and disconnect. Now directly above this tubing on our bypass valve adapter is another harness right here where I'm touching. We're gonna have to disconnect that guy. Now I know my hand's blocking this right now, but you're basically gonna pinch and just pull straight back. It is that simple and it disconnects. Next up, we're gonna lower down our pole jack and bring our intercooler down with us. Now, of course, if you're on the ground, you're gonna lower your hydraulic jack. Just make sure you're doing it cautiously, very slowly. You also may need to move some of the hoses out of the way to get it to bring down with you. So I'm gonna start lowering here. I can see that it's getting a little caught up. So I'm just gonna make sure everything's disconnected. All right, so we're getting a little caught up on that bypass valve and the adapter on that side, so I'm gonna bring this side down a little bit more in order to disconnect it from that side. Just like that. Now you'll find as you get lower on the bypass valve side, there's one more harness clip that you wanna remove. Just kind of work this guy back and forth and pop it off. There we go. Now we can pull the intercooler out. All right, so the last thing we need to do is remove this elbow tubing going to our intercooler. Our new Whipple intercooler will include a replacement here. So what we're gonna do is just unclamp it from this clamp back here. Not the first one, the one farther up. Now, as you can see, the clamp is facing the other direction, so I'm actually just gonna pull this a little bit sideways, grab a ratchet and a 7mm socket, and I'm just gonna loosen that guy up. All right, from there, I'm gonna work this guy off. Set it aside. All right, so we got our factory intercooler off of the front end of our 3.5 Raptor behind me on the lift. I want to take you through some similarities, but really the big differences between the Whipple Stage 1 Mega Cooler intercooler, as they call it, and your factory unit. Now, right off the bat, just taking off the factory unit, this guy off the factory line is significantly lighter than your Whipple Stage 1 intercooler. That's simply because your factory unit uses an aluminum core with also hard plastic connectors for your charge pipes. Your new intercooler is a one-piece fully welded aluminum, so the sides here are now an aluminum piece, which is adding to that weight. I'm talking several pounds. It was noticeably heavier than your factory unit. It's also a lot more durable. This guy, you can feel the quality built into that intercooler. Besides that, there are a couple of key specifics I want to mention. Throw some data at you here. The intercooler from Whipple, like I said, known as the Mega Cooler. It's a bar and plate style intercooler that's going to use offset air fin using 16 fins per square inch, so it's a huge difference over the factory unit here. This guy is also going to boast a 54% greater volume as well as an 8% larger surface area than your factory unit on my right. Those numbers may not mean a lot to you right off the bat. Just know that those numbers are significantly contributing to lower air temperatures or charge temps. We're talking 80 to 90 degrees lower than your factory unit. That is really impactful. Now, I know I mentioned that earlier, but guys, Whipple even lets us know that those numbers grow when it comes to real world applications. That's dyno proven results. Out on the road, you can expect that to be even better. Now, those lower charge temps or air intake temps are going to contribute to an increase in spark advance, which means more O2 or air to the engine, translating to a better performance while maintaining safety. All right, with all the meat and potatoes out of the way here, we do have to transfer over a couple of factory components from our old intercooler to our new guy, including some of these bump stops, as well as the bypass valve. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is lay our factory intercooler down, and I've got my impact gun in an 8mm socket. You can use a ratchet as well. If you are using an impact gun, just putting on its lowest setting if it has settings. So what I'm gonna do is remove the whole bypass valve and the adapter and all of this from the 8mm bolt that's holding it on. So on this top corner, I'm gonna remove that. All right, so again, I got my 8 socket. I'm gonna remove this bolt. All right, so now what you can do is rotate and disconnect. All right, the next thing we have to remove from our factory intercooler are the isolators, the little rubber things at the bottom of each notch. Now what we're gonna do is basically just work this guy off. They are pretty tight, so you wanna just twist them back and forth to remove them. All right, flip the guy around and do the same thing. That takes care of your stock component, so let's set this guy aside. All right, next we can focus on our Mega Cooler from Whipple. What we're gonna do is install our factory bypass valve unit into what is essentially the stock location on our new intercoolers. Same spot, same thing, just in the reverse order essentially. Only difference being instead of an 8mm bolt, there's a pre-installed 10mm bolt. We wanna remove that first. So we're just gonna unscrew that guy. And then essentially, you're gonna take the O-ring section, seat this guy in, and just rotate it until it seats. So you'll kind of see it rotate and then seat in. From there, rotate it the other way and it locks into place. It's super simple. Now you can line up the 2 holes pre-drilled on the unit to the 2 holes pre-drilled on the intercooler. So what we'll do is put that 10mm bolt through. You may have to pull it back a little bit just to get it through and thread it in by hand. Next, we'll take a 10mm socket and tighten it down. Now, this unit, the factory unit, is plastic, so you don't want to over tighten it and crack the plastic. Just get it nice and snug. Next up, take your rubber isolators that we removed, and we're going to install them on the knobs on each of the corners. All right, so next up you can see we have our factory intercooler fan assembly on the table, as well as the support bracket that goes underneath both the intercooler and that fan. We're going to install the bracket to the bottom portion, just like it was on our factory intercooler. So we're going to take our fan and set it into place on the core. Seat that just like that. So with the fan assembly just placed on the core, we're going to take this bracket and you're basically going to align the open holes with the rubber isolators. Now it really only goes on one way, so if it doesn't align, you may have to just flip it around a different direction. So I'm going to focus on the intercooler knobs first. Now that I have those lined up, I'll use that to help align the fan knobs. All right, so we have that in place. We'll push this guy in. Same thing on this side. All right, so that really takes care of assembling our new intercooler. Keep in mind that when you're reinstalling this guy, you are still going to want to have that hydraulic floor jack or the pole jack like we're using to help prop it up. You're also going to need the 2 factory 15mm bolts that hold this guy in from each side, so make sure you have those handy. On our new Raptors, there's a trim piece that would go around your factory intercooler. We are going to have to remove that. It's pretty simple. We're just going to pop off some plastic clips. So let's head back under our Raptor, remove the trim, and then we'll throw our intercooler back up. All right, so this trim panel here, it's this little bit flimsy piece of plastic that's around the vents around this plastic trim. This guy has to come off. You'll see the clips here holding it in place. We're going to use a small flathead screwdriver to really just pry up underneath this guy and remove those plastic clips. Now it's going to get a little bit tedious because you don't want them to reconnect and latch themselves shut. So we're really just doing piece by piece and holding this apart, prying off those clips. All right, and then the same thing on the sides. There we go. Once you crack that guy off, set it aside. Next up, we're going to take our 60-degree supplied silicone elbow and replace the tubing that we took off last. So you're going to make sure you have a clamp on the end here. It's got the 11mm nut, and we're going to connect it to the factory hose up top. All right, once you seat that all the way back, grab your clamp and slide it up to the top there and tighten it down with an 11 socket. With the hose seated all the way up there, we're going to tighten it down. Now on the other end, we're not going to tighten this down, but just make sure you have a clamp here before we move forward. Next up, we're going to put our intercooler into place. Now it's going to be a lot easier now because we replaced that factory plastic hose with our silicone one. It's a little more flexible. Also, you'll notice I took the fan off the front end here. I think it's easier for you guys to see what's going on, and it's going to be a little easier to prop it back up into place. Now if you're working on the ground, putting this on your hydraulic floor jack pad is going to be a little easier. If you're in the air like I am, you might want to grab a helping hand. I got my buddy Joe here to help me guide it into place, and I'll put the bolts through the brackets into the frame. Now while Joe holds this up into place, I'm going to pull the hoses back on our passenger side to give us room to slide this in. All right, just like that. Line that guy up. All right, once you have this guy up into place, I have Joe still holding this on. I'm going to grab our fan and set it into place on the bottom of the brackets. right, so once you have that fan in place, you're basically just bolting that bracket, the bottom bracket, to the frame on both sides. I know it can be pretty tricky, but it may be a little trial and error pushing it back and forth, but you can get there. All right, now that we have this guy bolted up into place, what we're gonna do is connect all of our hoses. So we're gonna start on our passenger side with these two blue ones, and then we'll do the driver's side with the one that we replaced, and then wrap it up with connecting our harness on the bypass valve. All right, so what I'm gonna do is just push that hose right into place, and if your clamps are not seated properly, you wanna fix those now. And then do the same for the top one, which I know will be difficult to see. Next up, we're gonna seat our hoses all the way down on the intercooler. From there, we can tighten down the clamps, which again, you can use a 7mm socket or a flathead. I'd recommend that 7mm, maybe an extension to get in there into certain spaces. It's a little tight, but you can make it work. Now for this guy, I'm gonna seat this and use an impact gun on that bolt head. And then up top, I'm gonna seat it and do the same thing. And all the way around there, now we can tighten it down. All right, I'm actually gonna switch to a 7mm swivel socket for the top because it is at a little bit of a tougher angle. All right, so next we're focusing on our driver's side. Now before we do this hose, this new silicone one that we just replaced, let's plug in the bypass valve harness. So this guy, of course, we brought over to the front earlier, so I'm just gonna feed my hand up there and plug it in. All right, just snap it down. Now for this hose, it can be a little easier than the other side. We have that 11mm band clamp over the end, so we're going to just pop it back on. All right, once you have that guy seated, grab an 11mm socket and tighten it down. Next up, let's connect the harness to our fan. Now, if you remember, we tucked that up this way, so we're just gonna bring that guy back around and reconnect right up front. Now guys, our little plastic bracket here did crack off in the process, but what you'll wanna do is just reconnect that if yours is in good condition. Next up, let's connect that bypass valve hose. It's gonna go right here. Push it back into place, and if you remember, we just twisted it to lock it in. Now I know we just slightly got these guys snug. Let's go back with a 15 socket and make sure they're nice and tight. All right, intercooler install is complete. All we gotta do is throw back up our skid plate. Before you do so, do make sure that everything is tightened down, all your hoses are connected properly, and make sure you reconnected all the harnesses on your fan and, of course, the bypass valve. Got that taken care of? All right, so what we're gonna do is go around the outside of those tow hooks, but underneath of the bottom of our bumper. Line that up on both sides. All right, and then we can put our bolts through. All right, I'm gonna put another one on the other side just to hold it up. All right, so let's work on the other two. Now before we tighten those 13mm bolts down, we gotta put our black support bracket back in place. Now it does say bottom written on it, which of course is gonna be facing the bottom. That's gonna go in between this skid plate and this metal plate above it. Grab the longer bolts, slide them through the bracket, and then back up into the frame. All right, so I'm just gonna let that guy loosely tighten and then do the other one. All right, let's go back and tighten all these bolts down. Grab your 15 socket and tighten down these two longer ones. Grab your 13 socket and tighten down the two under each tow hook. The tools used in the cold air intake portion of the Whipple kit here include a impact gun, ratchet, variety of extensions, 7, 8, and 13 millimeter deep sockets, 5 30-second hex socket or appropriate Allen key, and a handy removal tool or a panel removal tool. All right, let's move on to our intake. Uninstalling the factory intake is fairly simple. First thing we're gonna start off with is removing our harness on the intake air temperature sensor located back by the engine cover. So what we're gonna do here is really just pinch and disconnect just like that. All right, now directly under the tubing, your coolant line is actually connected to a plastic clip molded into the intake tubing. So what we're gonna do is really just pull back on this to just pull that hose out of position. We're not disconnecting the hose at all, just pulling it out of that clip. Next up, we're gonna loosen up our clamp here. Now, because our new kit only comes with this elbow piece, we don't have to go all the way back to the turbo on our passenger side. So let's grab a 7 millimeter socket and loosen this guy up. You can also use a flathead screwdriver. I just find this to be a little easier. All right, with that guy loosened up, we now have to do the bottom portion that connects to the tubing that then goes back to the turbo. So on the driver's side, I'm gonna use an extension and go straight back. The head of this clamp is in the back end there, so it's gonna be difficult to get to. Again, you can use a flathead or an extension and a 7 socket. All right, so it's gonna be difficult to see, but I'm gonna go over our driver's side front fender with an extension and a deep socket, a 7 millimeter deep socket, and I'm gonna loosen up that clamp. From this angle, I can get to it, and there you go. All right, with these two sides loosened, what we're gonna do is go over to our heat shield or our air box, and we're gonna disconnect these top clips, just like that, and just like that. From there, this guy will lift up and disconnect. Pull the tubing out of their sockets, and set this top portion aside. All right, this step's pretty simple. Pick up that filter and set that aside. Now back at the bottom portion of our factory heat shield or air box, we have a couple of things to disconnect. We are gonna have to remove this bolt, but before we do so, let's take care of this clip. That harness feeds over to this side, and there's a clip here. And then finally, there's a bracket attachment on the side. I'm gonna use a panel removal tool to just slide underneath of these brackets or these clips, and we're gonna pry up, disconnect. You could also use a flathead screwdriver. I just find this to be a little bit easier. Go. And while you have your panel removal tool out or your flathead, remove these 2 push pin clips that are holding on that front air duct to the top radiator shroud. All right, so you're just gonna pry up on the top portion, then head underneath of it and pry up on the bottom. It's a 2-piece. All right, it's okay if they do disconnect just like it just did. You're just gonna pry up on the bottom guy to get that out of place. And once you do, you can just pop them back together. Next step, grab a 13 socket. We're gonna get this bolt out of the side of our fender, holding the airbox in. At this point, grab a hold of that air duct and the back of your airbox. You're gonna pull straight up and disconnect it. Now it'll give you a little resistance because there's little pins on the bottom that hook into grommets. Make sure you pull that guy out. Also, make sure the grommets are still in the vehicle. If they're here, pop them off and put them back down. We got our factory intake off of our 19 Raptor behind me. It's on the table next to our Whipple Stage 1 Performance Kit, and I want to take you through some of the similarities, but mainly the big differences between the two kits, and there are quite a few to mention. Now, first thing I want to start with is the key player in the kit, right? The filter. I took apart that factory airbox to expose this filter. This guy is a flat drop-in paper element dry filter. Now really the only similarity that these two kits share aside from fitment is going to be the fact that the filters are both dry filters. This new guy is a synthetic material from Whipple. It's a dry filter as well, but it's much larger and much more effective. As a matter of fact, just based off of the looks of it, you can see the size difference between the two. This guy is about 14 inches long. Factory one is right around 10 inches long. This guy here is a little bit under 12 inches wide, and this guy here is a little bit under 10 inches wide. So significant difference in size, which is definitely going to contribute to more airflow, but it's really the material that makes that difference. The synthetic material here built into your new Whipple filter, while it is a drop-in, is still going to filter out more particles that you don't want making their way in, more so than your factory filter could. Now, that is going to be because of the synthetic material, but also because of the way it's layered. Each one of the pleats is thicker and more durable than your factory paper element. That material is just going to capture a lot more. Now, it also has a wire mesh going around each one of those pleats, front and back, whereas your factory filter does not. It only has it on the one side, which is also going to restrict a little bit more airflow because it's built differently. Now, those pleats are much wider as well. Aside from filtering capabilities, the wider pleats are going to allow for better airflow. It's unrestricted, or at least a little bit more unrestricted than your factory filter was. So overall, the filter definitely going to be a big upgrade. Aside from that, let's take a look at the rest of the kit. Your new material from Whipple is another durable roto-molded plastic. Impact resistant, it's also going to be really good with heat dissipation, and as you can see, it's got a much wider tubing. Your factory kit is made from another durable plastic, but it also has a lot of restriction in the piping, like it has that flex tube. Now, this being a lot smaller or narrower than your new Whipple kit is also going to restrict and limit the amount of volume and airflow that can come through. With the bigger volume capabilities on your new Whipple, more airflow equals more power. On top of that, the heat shield assembly is going to be different as well. Now, your old system is a two-piece kit for the bottom when it comes to the bottom portion of the airbox and the air duct. Those unbolt, which leaves room for some air gaps. The new kit, completely one-piece molded on the bottom portion. It does have a slightly wider assembly for the air duct, so again, more volume airflow coming through the front. It also has an opening on the bottom here, which your factory unit does not. If you look into your engine bay, it has an open gap between the bottom of this guy and underneath of the vehicle. So airflow going through the bottom will make its way up through and into your filter from the bottom of the airbox. Wouldn't be the case with your factory unit. Now, as you can see, the air duct here has a little bit more of a design going through, gives it a little bit more aerodynamic, guides some of that airflow into the box and into the engine bay as well. Finally, the top lid, much larger than the factory option. It's going to bring in more airflow and trap in more of the air where the filter is. And it's also going to dissipate some more of that engine bay heat as well. Now, that really wraps up the differences between the two kits. We do have to transfer over some factory components. I want to start with our intake air temperature sensor, move that guy over to our new tubing. So I set the air duct portion and the bottom portion of our airbox aside, our factory unit, because we aren't going to need that, but we are going to need our factory tubing. On the side where the intake air temp sensor is, we're going to twist and pull back. So we're going to twist counterclockwise, and then just wiggle it to pull it back. Now, you don't want to damage this guy because we're reusing it, so set it down, and we're going to immediately put it back into our new tubing for safekeeping. Let's set this factory unit aside along with the filter. All right, so next step, take the rubber grommet included in the kit, flip over your new tubing from Whipple, and you're going to install the grommet into the pre-drilled hole. This guy is going to go around the sensor. It just snaps right into place. From there, you can take your sensor, make sure this blue O-ring is still attached to the temperature sensor, and make sure it's in good condition. If it's damaged in any way, it'll leave an air leak through that sensor, which can throw a check engine light. So make sure that that sensor has the O-ring. From there, you're gonna seat this guy in. You may need to wiggle it and rotate it back and forth to get it to seat. You can also use a light amount of grease or lubricant to get this guy to seat. Basically, you want it to seat right past that O-ring, just like that. So this plastic little tab will sit flush against your rubber grommet. So now what we're going to do is rotate it and make sure this sensor is facing the right direction. So what you're going to want to do is, see this little tab that we sat flush against the grommet? You're going to turn that so it's parallel to the tubing that will then lead to your turbo. So make sure that that and the harness clip are facing the sides. Let's install the couplers on each one of the ends of our tubing here. Now, each one is a different size. So we have a much larger one, a medium-sized one that has an indent in the middle, and then a step-down one. Now, each one of them kind of corresponds with the same size tubing. So we have a longer section, a medium, and a small section. The small couplers going to the small, medium to the medium, and the larger to the larger. That should be obvious. So what we're taking now is the clamps. We're going to take one of the clamps that fits over the larger portion of the step-down and install it to the small tubing outlet. So this guy's going to slide right on over. All right, and seat it all the way down. And then what you can do is either take an 8mm socket or a flathead and tighten this down to the end. Now it looks like I have to loosen it a bit before we do anything, so I'm going to do that. I'm also going to use an impact gun for this guy on its lowest setting. So what I like to do is orient this the way it's going to install. So for me, it'll install just like this. And then I like to face all of the clamps the same direction. I think it looks a lot better under the hood when everything is kind of lined up properly and lined up the same. So I'm just gonna line that guy up to the edge and tighten it down, bolt head facing up to make it easier on us in car. Now for the other end of this, take one of the smaller clamps and I'm just gonna place it over the end there and just leave it be. Next, let's tackle the larger one. I'm gonna take the largest clamps in the kit and put that on over the end. And again, it looks like I'm gonna have to loosen this guy before we install it. And then this will go over the large portion. All right, and just to make it look nice, I'm gonna make sure it's facing the same direction as the other one I installed. I'll do that for all of the clamps. And tighten it down. All right, and again, just take one of the larger guys. I'm gonna put it over the other end, just for safekeeping. All right, now we can do the medium-sized one. Again, that's gonna be the same situation. I'm just gonna put one of the medium clamps over one of the ends and then install it, making sure it's going the same direction. And now we can tighten it down. And then the last one over the end. All right, next let's install the bottom portion of our new airbox. And as you can see on the bottom, there's gonna be those two knobs. They are gonna go again into the rubber grommets on the bottom there, so you wanna line that guy up. Slide this into place and seat them into those grommets. Once you have them lined up, you'll really just push down on them and they'll attach. All right, so now on the front snorkel or that air tube or air duct, there's new Christmas tree clips, these little plastic guys to replace the factory ones. What you're basically gonna do is just push those into the hole, just like that. Do the same thing for the other one. Next, we're gonna take our filter. As you can see, it's squared off on one end. Line that up to the same matching shape on the bottom. Make sure it's facing down and seat it into the airbox completely. All right, next up, we're gonna take the lid for the airbox and seat that into place. And again, it's cut the same way, so just line everything up. You may need to shuffle it a little bit just to get it in. Seat it and line up the bolt holes. Next, grab the 5 30-second hex screws included in the kit, and we're gonna bolt down the heat shield. Keep in mind, guys, you do not want to over torque these because it can crack the plastic. We don't want that to happen. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna use an extension really quickly and just thread these in by hand, just to make sure they're in their spots. All right, so now we're in the back here. I know it might be a little difficult to see. Just try not to drop the bolt in the engine bay. Go. Now to tighten these down, I'm going to use a 3/8 ratchet. You do not want to use an impact gun for this. Approximately 50 inch-pounds is what you're going to want to torque them down to, or just get them nice and snug. You don't want to go any farther past that. Next up, we're going to install our tubing. You want to make sure you have clamps over each one of the ends, and obviously connect them to the corresponding tubes. So I'm gonna try to seat it on the bottom one first. Bring this around to the side. Seat that guy in there. Bottom guy in the bottom. And then finally the big one into our airbox. There we go. Once you have everything aligned, you can go back and tighten down these clamps. All right, so now we can go back and tighten down our clamps. What I'll actually want to do is I think I want to rotate these guys back a little bit so that the bolt heads are kind of on the inside. I think that makes the engine bay, again, look a little bit nicer. So let's do that. Of course, this is all personal preference. You don't have to do this. I just think it makes it look nice. We just tilt that guy back. That way there isn't a big ugly brass thing staring you in the face. Do the same thing for the other one. All right, now I can grab our extension and tighten these down the same way that we loosened them up earlier. So I rotated our clamps to face the front here so I can just tackle them with my impact gun from the front. Makes life a little easier. Now we can connect our harness to the IAT sensor, the intake air temperature sensor. Just clip that guy back in. All right, with that last harness plugged back in, guys, that's wrapping up the intercooler and the cold air intake portion of the install. Tools used in our spark plug process here for the Whipple kit include a 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch ratchet, a variety of extensions, a spark plug socket. Ours here is mounted on a swivel extension, 8 and 10 millimeter deep sockets, a spark plug gapper tool or something to dictate the 0.025 inch gap that we need. And recommended would be anti-seize lubricant for the spark plugs, and not listed here would be dielectric grease, which is recommended but not required. All right, so next up we have to close the gap on our spark plugs. Now in order to do that, gotta pop our engine cover off. There's 2 10 millimeter bolts, one on each side of the front here, so let's get those out of the way. All right, from there, lift straight up and disconnect. Set this aside. Now in order to do this, we're gonna have to disconnect the harnesses on the bottom of those coil packs, then we'll remove the coil packs, and then the spark plugs underneath. And because obviously it's a V6, 3 on each side, for this front one, it'll make life a little easier for you if you disconnect this PCV line. So what you're gonna do is grab this blue locking tab, pull back, and disconnect. We'll just slide that out of the way, at least for this first one. From here, drop this white locking tab, pinch, and disconnect. Do the same thing for all 6. All right, so for the second one, I'm gonna move this guy back into position just for now. This guy here has a little bit of tape on it, still should pull back and disconnect easily the same way. All right, the last one's a little bit further back, still the same thing. All right, so now I'm gonna use a 1/4 inch ratchet, a small extension, and an 8 millimeter socket, and I'm gonna remove each one of the coil packs that have 1 bolt attaching them. I'm gonna get this guy out of the way again for the first one. And remove this bolt here. All right, you want to hold on to these. They will be reinstalled when we're done. All right, from there, shimmy this guy around, pop her straight back. All right, this one might be a little tougher to see, but it's the same exact thing. All right, so now we can do this third one up here. All right, so now we're gonna repeat the same process on the other side. The only difference is these are just angled a little differently. Start off by disconnecting the harnesses, then the bolts, then pull the packs out. All right, so now the last one. All right, so next step, let's get our spark plugs out. Now you're gonna need a spark plug tool, spark plug socket. Now I'm using a 5/8 inch spark plug socket. It's magnetic, comes with this nice extension. This guy's gonna make life a whole lot easier because it is pretty deep in there. So what we're gonna do is attach that to our 3/8 ratchet and go right into this hole here. It's our first spark plug we're gonna start with. Latch it onto that plug and break it loose. So it is magnetic, so once it is loose, it'll come straight out. So it looks like we have a little bit farther to go. I'm actually gonna take this guy off and just work on the extension. Here we go. All right, same thing for the one right up in front of it. All right, now we're just repeating that for the other side. All right, last one. So we got our 6 spark plugs on the table here. We do have to close that gap from the factory 0.03 to 0.033 down to 0.025. So not a huge difference, but without gapping these spark plugs, you may suffer some horsepower loss, and in some cases, some extreme cases, you may even result in a misfire after the tune has been uploaded. So we're taking care of that now. Of course, you want to be better safe than sorry. So what we have here is a tool that has this metal sheet that's 0.025 thick. So what we're basically going to do is take our plugs, and I'm going to close that gap so that it's nice and snug up against this 0.025 of an inch thick plate. Now you guys may have a spark plug gapper tool. That's obviously going to be the preferable tool to use. If you do have a spark plug gapper tool, you're going to be doing the same thing. What you're basically going to do is close the gap on your plugs and then measure it against the spark plug gapper tool, comparing it to the 0.025 inch slot on it to make sure it's the right gap. Now, in order to close the gap, there are some very specialty spark plug tools that will help you close it. Most people just tap it on a table. If that's what you're going to do, just make sure you're exercising extreme caution. Do it gently. It's better to close it little by little than it is to super close it and then make it extremely difficult to redo. So we're gonna take our plug, we're gonna lightly tap that metal bend at the table here, and then we're going to compare it against this. Now again, you don't want it to be too snug, but you don't want it to be too loose. You should feel just a little bit of resistance. That's how you know it's the appropriate gap. So let's get to it. All right, so again, from the factory, this is gapped to 0.03 to 0.033, so it's a slight difference. We're gonna just give it a little tap, and then I'm gonna run this guy around so See, I feel a little bit of resistance. That's how I know it's the appropriate gap. So we're gonna move on. This guy is a little loose. A little bit more. There you go. Repeat this for all 6. There we go. All right, there you have it. So our spark plugs at this point are gapped to 0.025 as per the Whipple instructions. If your spark plugs are looking a little worse for wear, it's worth noting here that it's a good time to pick up new ones, right? Spark plugs are out, it's a good time to replace them. Same thing goes for your coil packs, but our Raptor is 2019, it's pretty brand new, not a whole lot of miles. Our spark plugs are looking good. What do you say we install them? Next up, we're gonna install our spark plugs. Now what I'd recommend doing here on the threading is just dabbing a very tiny amount of anti-seize. So we have that here in our little tube. I'm gonna take this guy and just brush it on the edge there. You don't need a lot, just a little bit will do the trick. From there, I'm gonna set this guy aside. Do that same thing to all 6 plugs, of course. I'm gonna put this guy into my spark plug tool. It's magnetic, so that's gonna help us a lot here. I'm gonna feed it down into the hole and thread it down by hand. Of course, you wanna be nice and gentle with this. And then start threading it down. All right, so once it gets nice and tight by hand, take your ratchet and just do 1/4 turn. You don't want to over tighten it. You don't want to cause any kind of damage here. A 1/4 turn does the trick. All right, so I'm gonna hook my ratchet in there. Make sure it's still tight by hand. And do a 1/4 turn. There we go. Repeat that process for all 6. Next up, we're going to reinstall our factory coil packs. If you're upgrading your coil packs, now's a good time to do so, but the factory ones we're going to put back in here look like they're in really good condition. Inspect yours to make sure they are as well. Might be a good idea for you to put a little dab of dielectric grease on the end of the shift boot. Ours already has some, so we're going to skip that step, but if not, it's a good idea to do that at home. And that you can pick up at your local auto parts store, the same as that anti-seize that we put on our spark plugs. So let's take our coil pack and that factory bolt. We're going to put it back in place, starting on our passenger side. All right, when you are installing this, you want to line up the bolt hole to the hole on the vehicle, and you want to make sure it's seated all the way down, solid onto the spark plug. Grab that factory bolt, set it through. I'm going to run a couple of threads in there by hand, get it nice and snug, and then I'm going to switch over to my ratchet and tighten it down with our 8mm socket. Again, you want to get it nice and snug, and then a 1/4 turn. You do not want to strip these guys out. Grab that harness, plug it in, and push in that white locking tab, just like that. Repeat this for all of them. All right, so we're gonna repeat this on the other side. And if you remember, I moved that PCV hose out of the way. We do the same thing again. Pop this guy into place, put our bolt down. Now with that one in place, I'm gonna reconnect our PCV hose while we're at it. Just pop that guy right back into place, you hear it click. All right, let's put our engine cover back on. Our spark plugs are complete. Now in order to do this, again, it's really simple. There's a plastic bar at the top. Seat that into the retainers on the back end of the engine, and then seat the holes here back onto their studs. There we go. Let's get our nuts and put them back in place. All right, so I'm gonna put that nut on our extension, just feed that down onto the stud. Tighten it down. All right, next step, let's focus on the tuner. Now we have our Tomahawk device from Whipple in my hand. What we also have is the SD card. Now, of course, you have to request a tune yourself, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. And once you receive your tune files, you'll upload it or drag and drop it to your SD card that was inserted into the bottom of the Tomahawk. So we have it on our SD card. So now we're putting it back in the unit, clicks into place. Take your OBD2 harness and we're gonna plug it into the top of the device first. So we're gonna basically drop this guy in place and then screw this down, similar to a computer cable. All right, so once that's tight and secure, you wanna make sure it's not able to come out. Take the other end and we're gonna plug it into the OBD2 port. That's under the driver's side dash. So we're gonna find it right about here. So you can use these buttons as a reference, your emergency brake here. Just go straight to the right of it, underneath, plug this guy in. There you go. We're gonna push the on button without our foot on the brake. You don't wanna start the vehicle, just put it in the run position. From here, we can get to tuning. All right, so once you boot this up, it will immediately load the application, which we've already done. It takes about 5 to 10 seconds. Then it'll take you to this main menu. You'll have the Ford serial up top, Whipple Raptor, and then 3 menu options: programming, diagnostics, and setup. Before I run through any of the other options, let's focus right into programming and flash our vehicle. Now, of course, you wanna make sure that your tune is again on the SD card before you start, otherwise nothing will happen. So we've got ours selected. You use the up and down arrow keys to move around, and this right and left arrow key in one button to select. So we'll use that to select programming, reprogramming for software update. Specified calibration is available for download. Specified being the downloaded tune that we put on the SD card. So you're gonna press the given button to start. And you'll see some things start to happen. Lights flashing, making some noise, our steering wheel's moving, seat's moving back. So it's basically communicating with your ECU to make this happen. It's worth noting here, guys, this does not save your stock tune file. It goes right in and replaces the stock file with your new tune from Whipple. All right, so at this point it says module programming complete, and it's flashing the screen to give us that indication. Hit the select button, takes you right back to the main menu. So there you have it, that's the tuning process. Now, I wanna show you a couple of the other features on the Tomahawk for some guys who have other modifications on their truck that you may wanna take advantage of using this device. All right, aside from the DTC code reader, which obviously you can take advantage of on the device, you can go into diagnostics, and there's a couple of other options. So there's module info, which is more just settings info about the apps and applications on your device here. Profile relearn, that's something in rare cases, if there is an issue starting up or things of that nature, you can do a profile relearn to help diagnose that. Underneath the tire axle change option, which is underneath, of course, that profile relearn, is a really good option for guys who have simple mods on their vehicle, like a change in gear ratio and a change in tire size, which is extremely common on these Raptors. Now, our vehicle is bone stock. We have the stock 315 tires on our vehicle, but if you did change your tire size, you'll want to select tire axle change and make the changes necessary on the device, which will help recalibrate, make sure your speedometer is correct, and make sure it's accounted for. Octane adjust. If you change your octane levels, you can change the settings in the device here. It is 100% required that you use 91 octane or higher fuel. No 87 octane using this tune. You'll definitely be running rough. You don't want that to happen. Other modules we'll hop into. There is a transmission setting as well. Most people won't have to deal with that, but if you need to change transmission settings, they are there as well. So if we go back again, we're at the main menu. Let's take a look at setup. In the settings menu, you have a couple of options. You can change the contrast, backlight, and orientation. So if you want to change the way that the screen appears, you can also rotate the orientation to have it portrait instead of landscape. That's obviously personal preference. And then there's finally factory defaults if you want to format the device, and tool information if you want to get some of the settings of the actual Tomahawk. So that's your Tomahawk device. At this point, you can unplug it, you can store it in your glove box or your center console, start your vehicle, and you're good to go. Well guys, that's gonna wrap up my review and install as well as dyno test for the Whipple Stage 1 Performance Kit, available for the 2018 and newer 3.5 liter Raptor. If you're looking to pick it up for your Raptor to make a huge difference in performance, you can do so right here at AmericanTrucks.com.